A huge rank rise gets me within touching distance of the top 10k after an absolute mega round in AFL Fantasy for round 10. But anyway, before we jump into this team review, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. If you are listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there, and let's jump into this review. So, as you can see, for those on YouTube, I ended up scoring a 2196 and an overall rank of 11,613 and a round rank of 6,140, and that puts me up around about 3k places overall after a huge round. That's a pretty good round. I don't know what the absolutes what was the round winner score. The round highest score for the round, maybe something like that. Maybe we can do this. The round winner was a 2491, which is an absolute mega round. And then yeah, a lot of the people scored in the 23s, etc. But yeah, still a 21 isn't the worst, I would say. 2196. There definitely were some things that I could improve on. Definitely some players that I think are still needing to be upgraded, etc. And what has been a pretty horrid year. But anyway, I digress, I guess. My D1 and D2 in Dane Zorko and Jack Sinclair turned up. That was absolutely mega by them. 109 from Zorko and then a 139 from Sinclair. Sinclair is back to his best. He basically made up for that 61 a couple weeks ago. And since I had him in, I think I got him in for maybe the Richmond game or something or other like that. When did I actually grab him up? Let's see. I grabbed him in around, was it round 5? And I just had him in the midfield. Yep, definitely had him round 5. Round 4, I had him in the back line for a 95, captained. That was bad. And then around 3, I didn't have him. So I grabbed him for round 4. So he's been on my side for basically this whole time period here, where he's only scored 2 tons and a couple of 95s. 3 95s and a couple of tons, so he's probably still averaging about 95 or so in the side, but it's definitely better than the 90 or so that he was beforehand. Matty Roberts is a guy that I think needs to still be considered potentially going, but there's a massive problem that there's just so many, we're copying injury after injury. There's a potential that 2 of the forwards are out. Well, we know one of them is out in Jason Horne-Francis, as he did his hamstring, but there's also potential for Jack McRae to be out, and that would be a huge differential, I would say, if he is out. Because a lot of teams have both of them, and there needs to be upgrades to be had, and they were supposed to be top 6s, so that that definitely causes chaos. Trent Rivers, an 85. He looked great at halftime, and then he scored 24 in the second half, or something or rather that like that. And that was just horrific. And so 66% time on ground. I don't know what happened to him. I'm praying that he didn't get injured in some way, but I don't exactly know. So yeah, that was a really, really annoying score from him. And so yeah, that is a little bit annoying to see him down there at that total. I don't know what exactly happened with him on regards to that. I'm just trying to find if there was anything or whether he just sat to sit down. Because yeah, that was a really annoying thing. It doesn't look like there was any injuries or anything of that regard, so it just looks like he sat, which is a little bit annoying because I would have liked to have just seen him get up to sort of that 100 marker, but especially after a 61 first half. But it is what it is there. And yeah, there was no injuries for Trent Rivers. He just sat for no reason of all. He had 14% time on ground less than what he usually does. I don't know why that is the case. Of course it happened to me because he was on track to score that sort of 120, 115 range. That would have looked great. Zach Reed, 82, fine. Riley Bice is probably a guy that he's been in all my early trade plans, simply put, and just needs to go, it looks like. Nick Dacos had a really poor game for his standard, I guess. 28 touches, 3 marks, 3 tackles, just couldn't really get involved and is now probably going to start to really tank in value. Has North Melbourne this week, but there's a potential for a Will Phillips tag. I don't know about that though, because North have won a couple games without Will Phillips and look really strong in the midfield at the moment. So yeah, that will be interesting to see how that works out. But we'll see at, I guess, selection table whether he is a possible VC or captaincy option. Harry Sheezel 102 in this sort of forward role, 10 tackles in what was absolutely just a tackle fest. There was more tackles at halftime than what both teams usually average at the full game. So it just shows that it was an absolute tackle fest. He ended up with 20 touches, 10 tackles to get to a 102. Connor Rozee ended up on one of the most useless 109s I've seen, but we don't care about efficiency or anything of that regard. He ended up with 32 touches, 7 marks. And that was just absolutely fantastic for fantasy. I think he ended up on about 90 odd for Supercoach. Then Jai Newcomb 123, he was outstanding. 29 touches, 5 marks, 8 tackles and a goal. We talked about him in the game review. He was back to his best, and I was pretty disappointed at quarter time, as I think it was on 19 or 18, but I think it was 19, I want to say. And then 104 in the last 3 quarters is a fair effort to get up to an absolute huge total. And definitely a guy I would consider keeping for the foreseeable future now, as he's got these type of games in him, and he's averaging, I think I got him in for maybe West Coast. So that's 194 plus 190. So he's averaging like 96 on my side, which isn't the greatest, isn't the worst. Isaac Rankin, I brought him in for now a 77 and an 89. Of course, that just so happens. And so that was a horrific trade-in. But yeah, he's probably going to be moved into the forward line this week, as I need a trade-in option, because yeah, he will go off against the West Coast Eagles, I feel like. So now is the opportunity, if you don't have him, to trade him in, because most people are going to need a forward now with McRae and, well, with Jason Horne-Francis confirmed out and McRae going for scans. Then we've got Caleb Sarong actually turned up. Surprise, surprise. He went 108, 36 touches, 3 marks, 3 tackles. Would love to see the non-disposal work get up. Like, his tackling just needs to improve, it feels like, as well as his marking. If he can get them up another 2 per game, that's when he's going to be laughing, because that would be another 14 points per game. And that would pretty much lift him up towards that just baseline 100 total. Then Xavier Lindsay hit his break even again. He went up 18k and is just continuing to rise. He looked really poor at halftime. I think it was on 23 or so. So a 55 point second half. He basically just scored all the points that Trent Rivers didn't. And yeah, those two ended up on 150 between them, but would have loved it if they were ending up on 200 between them. But yeah, that's all right. And then Levi Ashcroft, I was worried about a Harry Boyd potential late in, as there was news about Camaminti being a potential late out with back soreness or something. I don't remember what exactly it was. So I just went through the Hugh Boxall route too, because I knew he was not in WA. He was still in the playing in the Waffle at the time. So I knew that that was a safe bet. And I went through Levi Ashcroft just to confirm Tristan Cherry, who I actually nailed the first captaincy of the... I think that's the highest... One, I think that's close enough to my highest captaincy score. And 2, I think that's the first time I might have nailed the captaincy out of all my players through the VC. So yeah, that was huge. Tristan Cherry came in with an absolute bang, and I actually thought he scored a 152. So got to upgrade that to a 155. So yeah, that was an absolute mega score from Tristan Cherry, and rightfully was the captaincy, or the VC, sorry, and that was a very, very useful because TDK out. And so yeah, just happy to grab that score, as I think that was a difference maker. He in the end gapped 38 points to Max Gawn, who is continuing on. Max Gawn, he gained another 21k. He's got a 120 break even against Sydney, which will be interesting to see if he goes and actually beats that or not. We'll have to wait and see on that front. But Tristan Cherry, absolutely mega. 12 tackles in the game. 51 hitouts is absolutely huge. That is 99 points between that. He didn't even have that good of a game with his sort of disposal, and he only took 1 mark. So if he was able to, I mean, he only takes 1 to 2 marks a game, and he only had 1 free kick, which is probably actually a positive. So yeah, he had just an absolute mega game, and I wouldn't be surprised now. He's got Collingwood, Darcy Cameron. That could be, yeah, he probably won't score the best against Darcy Cameron, but then he has by West Coast, Fremantle, Carlton, Hawthorn. That could be interesting, because I'm pretty sure most of those sides are pretty positive in terms of matchups. So I think he's going to have a mega run home, at least for the next little bit. I think these 3 or 4 matchups are some of the kindest in the league. Then I think these 5 games are a little bit tough. And then he goes easy game, Giants, I think, are a good matchup. Richmond, again, we saw how he scored. And then Adelaide is the toughest matchup. So, yeah, will be interesting to see how he scores long run. But I think in the next little bit, it will be pretty good. Bailey Smith, 1, 2, 3. I'm actually glad that I didn't consider the VC on him this week because I would have taken it. And that would have cost me 32 points. And 32 points is a matter of 100, 200, 300 ranks, somewhere in that region. So, yeah, glad that I didn't do that. Christian Petrarca hasn't returned the best score for the last couple of weeks. And he's sort of middling out. It's not out. It's not blowing you away, but also if you were a non-owner, you'd still be sort of like, I don't really need to grab him, don't really need to not grab him. It's sort of just there and thereabouts. And he plays Sydney. Sydney, who do they're probably going to run James Jordan to him, I would expect. I don't expect them to run James Jordan to Clayton Oliver, as I don't remember what Oliver scored, but he was on fire first up. So he ended up on an 82. Kind of surprising how basically all the players that did well in the first half for Melbourne did horrific in the second half, as he was on like 60 at halftime or something like that, 55 at halftime. Then McRae, 84, there's concerns about his back as he copped one in a knee to the back, so we'll see about that. Horne-Francis almost ripped his hammy off the bone. I'm surprised he got such a positive prognosis with being back potentially post-bye. As they have the round 12 bye, they're hoping he's only out for one game. So there's a potential actually not to trade and just sort of cop it. We'll see what they say in the injury report on Tuesday. And that could basically be my moves if, and just cop the sort of Caden Cleary on field for effectively 1 week, because he'd be on field anyway next week. So, yeah, it's effectively burning about 50 points, Horne-Francis, if he can be back round 13. So that's sort of what I'm considering. If he's only out for 2 weeks, then I might consider holding him and then just upgrading elsewhere. Caleb Daniel, 77, probably needs to be moved on at this point. If I can get an upgrade out of him, that would be great, especially if I can maneuver out of that round 12 bye. If I can maneuver out of that round 12 bye, you'll see it in my round 11 preview, etc., team preview. I'll be talking about this as I have Horne-Francis, Caleb Daniel, Tristan Cherry, that's 3, Harry Sheasel 4, Connor Rozee 5. I think that's it. But I've got 5 guys there. And if I can maneuver it to 4 and just have 1 on each line out, that's going to help me dramatically, because I can actually sort of cover that to a certain extent and can just upgrade elsewhere, etc. And then I'll have Horne-Francis back. I'll have potentially, say, a Nick Martin in this slot here. So I'll potentially have a forward line that's pretty much complete by that point. And the good thing about Horne-Francis is he has the mid-forward eligibility to move into the midfield to cover, so it's a little bit easier there. But yeah, if I can cover with potentially the best out of a Caden Cleary or a Tom Gross or something of that regard, or potentially another rookie, etc., and then that's almost going to be best case scenario for me there. Cooper Simpson, 64. He's probably just going to play F6 for a while, as he looks pretty much set for 60s, which is fine at this point. We don't have any rookies really coming through. There was none, I think, that debuted, and we're still a couple of weeks away from the mid-season draft. The mid-season draft is still a further 9 days away, so we have to wait on that front there. And then Caden Cleary is starting to lose cash. So, like I said, I could actually move him on to someone. Like, I could potentially move him and say a Caleb Daniel to someone else, but I just don't know if there's many options at this point. So we'll just have to wait and see on that front. But again, Daniel, Cleary, and Bice are potential outs this all week, and we'll just have to look at it. And I just hope we get a positive prognosis with Horne-Francis, because if they say he'll be back for round 13, then that will be good. But we'll see in the injury report. I know that there's been some reporting on it, but I just want to see in the injury report what they say a couple of days after the fact. So yeah, that is the team, a positive rank rise for me this week, and we will see what the trades and how I maneuver around for these buys coming up in a little bit. As we start to hit the buys, obviously with 5 buys instead of 4, it should be a little bit easier to get through them. And we're just going to see if Horne-Francis, the damage isn't too bad. If it's going to be, say, potentially 50 points or so for 2 rounds out or so, that's not even that bad. So I might just hold him there, as a trade is probably worth about 100 points. But anyway, I will see you guys in my Supercoach review soon. Bye, guys.